Buenos dias, welcome to UCL This Week once again, as Tuesday in particular delivered some huge matches, didn't it? By the way, guys, I'm going to do things a little bit differently this week and just focus on 1 or 2 matches per day to really get into it, and then just go over the rest quickly rather than spreading myself thin across the board. You guys let me know which format you prefer. And as always, you can catch the matches on DAZN in select territories in Canada. Here, that's where I watch the Champions League personally, but is also available in the USA in Spanish. Use my link below to check that out for yourself. A massive matchup, in my opinion, the biggest of the match day, but our next match wasn't so bad either, right? Bayern, a team that has won every single match this season, versus a slightly out of sorts but still dangerous PSG side. PSG were sucker punched early by Bayern, which shouldn't have come as a surprise. I know that form can exist separately from European competitions to domestic competitions. PSG is an example of that this season. But when you take on a team like Bayern, you simply have to be at your best. Bayern started early with Kane doing his thing and dropping deep. Then you had Olise fluffing his lines and his finish, only for Luis Diaz to pick up the rebound and finish past Marquinhos. Dembele thought he had leveled for PSG, but he was just offside. Game of inches, and what a difference those inches would have made on the complexion of this match and just in general, the potential outcome, because then disaster struck at the back for PSG. Marquinhos showing his age or his lack of match fitness perhaps this season, as he was sleeping on the ball, allowing Diaz to nip it from him right on the edge of the PSG box, then finish past Chevalier. And from nearly 1-1, PSG were quickly 2-0 down at home against Bayern. Bayern should have had a third before halftime when some sloppy play at the back once again from PSG saw them give up the ball near the box, leading to a squared ball to Stanisic, I believe it was, but he unselfishly left it to Gnabry behind him, not seeing the defender between them. So if he had taken that chance, honestly, some of the football that Bayern was playing in that first half was unbelievable. You had that attacking sequence just before halftime where there were back heels and perfectly weighted passes from Kimmich and Gnabry, with Kimmich's strike just bouncing wide at the end of that play. Couple in Gnabry's strike from earlier that hit the base of the post, bounced across the face of the goal line, and kissed the other post as it bounced wide. And Bayern genuinely could have been 3-4 up if they were just a little bit tighter with their finishing. However, Luis Diaz did something completely unnecessary right at the end of the first half. Now, it felt inevitable in a sense because part of Bayern's plan, seemingly at least, was to be absolutely crunching in the tackle, to not give PSG an inch, don't let them breathe on the ball and play on the line, but don't cross it type of thing. And Diaz just took it too far. Absolutely no reason to leave both of his feet and go flying in like that. It's excessive force, it's endangering your opponent, and hopefully Hakimi will have a quick recovery. Hopefully it's one of those ones where it hurts more in the moment but isn't as bad for recovery. Editor Adrian can update us here. But remember, Dembele also went off injured. That's why you had the entire PSG bench, even Luis Campos, screaming at the referee to do something. And prior to this even happening though, Fabian Ruiz with a nasty little kick to Kimmich's head, which was 100% on purpose in my opinion. He easily could have stepped away, but he looked at Kimmich's head, stepped into it, and then moved on towards the ball. One of those things that players try to make look accidental, but was on purpose. It's nasty work from him there, if it was on purpose, as I suspect. And if you're Bayern, you're pissed not just because of that, but because you had PSG on strings prior to Diaz's silly red. This was such an unbelievable first half performance where, as I said, they should have been 3 or 4 up. I mean, Stanisic constantly bombing forward and attacking space vacated by Hakimi at the back, passing around Marquinhos with ease. Gnabry looked brilliant out there, playing ahead of Kane. Pavlovic and Kimmich had complete control of the midfield. I mean, how would the second half turn out? Of course, it turned into bunker ball from Bayern, sitting deep with their only hope of attack coming from someone like Kane, springing a counter through Olise or Stanisic, who was again bombing forward. PSG were pushing and finally got a goal from João Neves, a tidy ball in from Lee Kang-in, and an inventive finish from João Neves as he was stretching for it. 2 subs linking up, mind you. Lee had been on for some time as he replaced Dembele in the first half. Warren Zaire-Emery should have brought PSG level if not for the greatest keeper of all time, in my opinion, Manuel Neuer, making himself big to stop that deft little finish from Zaire Emery. But Bayern held on. They retained their winning streak, and what a performance it was. You could see how much it meant to them as Kompany sprinted onto the pitch right as the final whistle went, and they all celebrated in a circle because they had to grind this one out against the defending champions. We saw Bayern shake a bit in the second half against Borussia Dortmund, but this is the closest they have really come to dropping points. So there's the early marker. It's safe to say that Bayern Munich are the team to beat, and the team that is playing some of the most enjoyable football to watch in this moment, at least, in my opinion. Liverpool come into this one having lost 6 of their previous 8 matches, and certainly didn't look like that was the case at all. You have people speaking about Liverpool being in crisis, while Real Madrid come into this match having won 13 of their 14 matches across the entire season, and people talking about how Xabi Ball is gaining strength with every match. And I mean, both comments are maybe not crisis, but are relatively true, right? Well, in the first half, you would have thought that the fortunes were reversed as Liverpool looked the more dangerous team. Some moments from Real Madrid, but not much as far as real danger for Mamardashvili until the second half. For the second year running, Alexis Mac Allister has scored against Real Madrid, and it came from a free kick that Bellingham shouldn't have given up. But Mac Allister, for him of all people to score a header from a free kick, 1, it's down to the quality of the delivery from Szoboszlai, and 2, Real Madrid will be disappointed with their defending. I mean, fair enough. You never expect Mac Allister to be the one who heads it in, one of the smallest guys on the pitch. You devote your marking to big aerial threats, but you can't just let him coast through like that. It was another night at Anfield where Mbappe struggled to do much at all. Vinicius joined him in that, despite having a really good record against Liverpool prior, 5 goals in 5 matches against them. But this was a credit to Liverpool's entire back line, as well as Gravenberch, who was almost splitting the center backs at some points. But Connor Bradley in particular absolutely iced out Vinicius Jr. When you look at the balance of it, Courtois once again kept Real Madrid alive against Liverpool, kept them within touching distance, and gave them a possibility of getting some kind of point from this match, right? The saves on Van Dijk, Szoboszlai, Liverpool's most important player this season, a couple of times actually, whether diving to his right to get his hand on Szoboszlai's strike on it or coming flying out of the goal. Truly an incredible keeper. So for 2 years in a row, Liverpool have defeated Real Madrid at Anfield, and they managed to do so during a time in which people, again, were talking about their time being up, as if Liverpool are done out here, and yet they hand a team that had won 13 of 14 matches just their second loss, which is quite impressive. And it was a fairly comprehensive victory as well. This match was only close in the scoreline because otherwise Liverpool were fantastic in defense, and if not for the guy we just talked about, Thibaut Courtois, they would have been well ahead thanks to their attack as well. Also, he's received criticism and people have been right to be skeptical based on his performances thus far, but Florian Wirtz looked much sharper in this match, much closer to the talent that he is. And hey, 2 clean sheets in a row for Liverpool as well. So what else happened on Tuesday? Well, Tottenham beat Copenhagen, and the moment of this match was Mickey van de Ven doing his best for the Puskas Award next year, end-to-end through an entire team, the ghost of Heung-min Son overcoming him. 4-0 to Spurs, Frank doing it against his own people. Arsenal defeat Slavia Praha, and there's no surprise there, right? 3-0, yet another clean sheet for Arsenal. Arsenal haven't conceded a goal across all competitions since September 28th. 8 clean sheets in a row. Even if a lot of teams are teams they are far above, it's still impressive to have that kind of focus defensively. And hey, striker Marino getting it done. Napoli also got a clean sheet against Eintracht Frankfurt, but also failed to score against them, a side that has conceded 31 goals this season. Conte doing it again, man. He's doing the European struggles thing once again. And he's feeling it because he's saying things in press conferences how, like, you know, the club needs to learn about midweek fixtures and how to plan for them. Brother, you are the one who needs to learn about them based on your record. Absolutely one of the best for domestic football, but terrible when it comes to European football. Atletico, they defeat Union SG to hand the Belgians their 3rd loss in a row and improves Atleti to 2 wins from 4. Julian Alvarez with his 9th goal of the season. That's 13 goal contributions in 14 appearances. Bodo Glimt, the Norwegians, lose to AS Monaco. Bodo looking for their first win still. Olympiacos and PSV played out a 1-1 draw as Ricardo Pepi got a 93rd minute equalizer in a match where Olympiacos really deserved to get their first win of the league phase in Piraeus. And Juve and Sporting play out a 1-1 draw in Turin. Spalletti with Coop Miners in defense again. Overall, a decent performance from Juve, an improved performance, but they struggled for goals again. Still, very early days though. Captain Erling Haaland leading Man City out against his former team. Haaland the captain due to Bernardo Silva starting on the bench in this one. Borussia Dortmund didn't offer much in the attack for a lot of this, despite having some control to start out the half, which, not offering a ton was always potentially on the cards with Niko Kovac's side. The man isn't afraid to sit deep with his back five, be defensive, and try to rely on someone like Adeyemi to be the outball. See what he and Guirassy can cook up on the counterattack. However, a weak link in that back 3/5 undid those hopes for Niko Kovac, as Bensebaini just didn't look at it at all in this match, exposed on a couple of occasions. Also, didn't help him that Phil Foden was in great form as he stepped inside and then rolled a strike perfectly into the corner past Kobel. No chance for the keeper there, just a class finish from Foden, who shushed the crowd immediately. He vanished last season, but he's looking improved now. Not quite the 23-24 version of himself, but improved upon the ghost that he was. Once they identified Bensebaini as the weak link, with Svensson getting caught out at times up the pitch, City kept on running it down that way. Quick diagonal balls into that side of the pitch for Savinho or Reinders to attack. And while the next goal didn't come from that side, it was finished on that side, as Doku's ball in saw Haaland just float away from Bensebaini, who was a statue on that play, leaving Haaland to smash it in. Nearly ripped the netting off of the goal with that hit. Second half, same story. Bensebaini losing out to Savinho with a shoulder-to-shoulder. Something it was a bit more than just a shoulder-to-shoulder. But anyway, Dortmund had plenty of time to recover the ball. They failed to do so, and Phil Foden ran it back. Again, nice touch, surrounded by yellow shirts, and then bent it into the bottom corner. 3-0 City. Now, it's not as if Dortmund had zero chances, right? Donnarumma made a couple of great saves, but he couldn't stop Valdemar Anton's deft touch at the near post to make it 3-1, and suddenly comebacks on. Rierson had a decent chance at the back post. Well, a difficult one, let's be honest. And he put it over the bar. Rayan Cherki came off of the bench and scored. Bit of a deflection on that one, but well taken otherwise from Cherki, who looked lively when he came on. And 4-1 would be the end of it. Solid performance from Man City. Also, before I forget, Nico Gonzalez is looking better and better. Great control in the midfield in this showing. And Reinders seems to be resettling again. He started well at City. He faded for a few matches and is looking good again. Man City in general looking pretty decent. 6 wins and a loss in their last 7. That loss to Aston Villa a bit confusing. It took just 6 minutes for Club Brugge to exploit Barcelona's high line with a quick ball in behind to Forbes, who is fast as hell. And he squared it to Tresoldi to make it 1-0 for Club Brugge. But Barcelona took just 2 minutes to respond, as a nice ball over the top freed Fermin, and his ball to Ferran was tucked away nicely. But again, this Barca back line, they were pressing high to try to squeeze Club Brugge in their own end, but a rapid counterattack between Van Aken to Forbes to Zolis and back to Forbes again. 2-1 Club Brugge. Calm finish from Forbes, who's looking like an absolute demon against Barcelona. Garcia, Araujo, Koundé, and Balde caught out again. After Ferran had scored the first one for Barcelona, Eric Garcia was over on the touchline, let's say excitedly discussing things with Hansi Flick about the back line, because Club Brugge were threatening to break through every chance they had, and that change seemingly wasn't put into play if they can be quickly undone with just 3-4 passes, as they did with their second goal. Now, that said, it's not as if Barcelona's attack wasn't functioning, right? Because it was. Koundé had a strike that was touched onto the bar by Jakers in the Brugge goal. That was the second time, actually, that Barcelona had hit the woodwork. To be fair to Barcelona's back line, it was much better after conceding that second goal. It remained unlucky in the attack with the woodwork, but when needed, Lamine Yamal answered the call, just doing something spectacular. Split 2 defenders, touch to Fermin, and he played it brilliantly back to Lamine to beat another defender and then side-foot it past the on-rushing keeper for 2-2. Brilliant from Lamine Yamal, who is starting to really grasp a hold of this match. He's starting to take control of it. That said, Carlos Forbes had a chance to make it 3-2 just a minute after that back line again. So he was chipping it onto the roof of the goal, but of course he made up for it after. Club Brugge picking their way through Barcelona's back line, who were standing still on the center line. Unbelievable from them. But Carlos Forbes, one-on-one, he dinked it past Szczesny for 3-2. They score when they want, you know? Carlos Forbes, 2 goals and an assist against Barcelona. What a night for him. Barcelona took control again, keeping Brugge in their own box for the most part to sort of close out this game. And as expected, Lamine Yamal had a say in this once again as his cross was met by Christos Solis. Unfortunately, unlucky really, the flick off of his head causing the ball to loop in at the back post. So Barcelona back in it with an own goal, 3-3. What an insane match this was. Now, it looked as though Club Brugge had actually won it with a late goal from Vermaat, but it was called back as Vermaat slide to block Szczesny's clearance. You know, Szczesny turned because of that slide. Vermaat caught him and the goal was called off. So 3-3 the final, an unexpectedly fantastic match as Brugge remain undefeated at home in this competition. They are quite the difficult side to deal with, eh? Barcelona will just be glad that this match is over, as they were exposed a few too many times against Club Brugge and were up against a team that, you know, actually had the players to hurt them in transition. Solis, Forbes, Tresoldi's speed, plus Van Aken's composure, passing ability, and control of the ball made things tough for Barcelona's creaky back line. And I think, you know, I don't know if I said this in one of my BR football streams every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern time on BR Football on YouTube. Or if I said it here about how that back line is going to cost them and how not focusing at all on the back line seems like such an insane play this summer, and they really should have focused on bringing someone in, especially after Inigo Martinez left. I think that's really going to cost them getting to the sort of latter stages of this competition. Or maybe when Rafinha comes back, the pressing will be sorted and they'll be just fine. So, hey, let's see. What else happened? Absolute hot garbage. Actually cold, slimy, putrid, wet garbage from Benfica as we lose once again 4 losses from 4 matches. Completely embarrassing. This time losing at home against Leverkusen. Time to send the youth side. I mean, I know with registration and everything, you can't actually do that, but you know what I mean. Let the second stringers play. Lucky that 24th is only 4 points away, because otherwise I'd say it's over. But I mean, look, it's probably over. Pafo's win though. Pafo's win over Villarreal. If things ended right now, they would be through to the next round. They have been decent defensively, very good, a few clean sheets, but couldn't find goals previously. And they did against Villarreal. Crazy seeing David Luiz marshalling a back line in the Champions League. And it was the day for the underdogs, eh? Karabag drawing Chelsea 2-2. They had a chance to win it right at the end as well. Karabag putting some results together here. Galatasaray continue to pick up points as they go to Amsterdam and get a 3-0 win, with Osimhen getting a hat-trick, 2 penalties, and a lovely diving header from Asane Cross into the box. Osimhen is on fire right now, as we'll see in a moment. Inter beat Kairat 2-1, Lautaro and Carlos Augusto with the goals. Newcastle United beat Athletic Club 2-0 as Newcastle are flying high, man. And Atalanta got a win over Marseille in Marseille. So let's see what all of this means. Bayern are your leaders and one of 3 teams that's won every single match thus far, with Arsenal and Inter. Liverpool is just kind of hanging on in the top 8, but Galatasaray are on them. Napoli rounds out the top 24 as we look at the middle portion with 4 points. That's currently the cut right now, just 4 points. The bottom portion of the table, you can see Benfica and Ajax having a biggest bozo competition right now. Kairat is above them, as are Slavia, Bodo. I mean, all these guys. It's crazy. Your top scorer right now is Victor Osimhen after that hat-trick against Ajax. And when it comes to assists, we've got plenty of dudes on 3 right now, from Reinders to Szoboszlai. Okay, guys, that's UCL this week. We have one more weekend of matches, but then before the international break, lots to talk about in World Cup qualifying. Also, the Benfica election is this weekend, so I'll give you guys a Benfica update there, how Mourinho's doing, etc. I've seen a few people sort of asking for that as they're curious about how Mourinho's doing at Benfica, so happy to provide, especially in light of the elections that are happening this weekend. So that will be huge. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.